So we have spoken time and time again throughout the course of the past few weeks about how Radko Gudas ended the season of one Toronto Maple Leafs captain, Auston Matthews. But what if I told you that subsequently, on the very same play, Auston Matthews may have ended the NHL career of Radko Gudish? It sounds crazy, but hear me out. We have ourselves some word from the block, I guess you could say, that indicates that might actually be the case. So let's dive into the profile, let's dive into who said it, let's dive into some of the reaction here. Radko Gudish, of course, is the captain of the Anaheim Ducks. He's 35 years old, 6 feet 207, a right-handed guy. You wouldn't know it just from the profile. 6 feet, right? Not the biggest guy necessarily, but he plays huge. He's physical. He injures guys. He injured Crosby at the Olympics. He injured Matthews and ended his season. Radko Gudish over the years has really developed a reputation, and that reputation has been exemplified and expanded upon more and more over the past few months. But all things considered, Radko Gudish is a pretty notable NHL player. He has been playing in the league for over a decade. He is already a veteran at this point. He was in Tampa, he was in Philly, Washington, Florida, before going over to Anaheim. Not really a point producer, but that's okay. That's not really the role that he was brought in to do for these NHL teams. And Gudish has a contract that expires at the end of this season, making $4 million a year. This has been a pretty good contract for the guy, because he had worked his way up from making $2-something million for so many seasons. Now he's making $4 million, but he's 35 years old and towards the end of this NHL contract. I understand that for Anaheim, you can say, well, Pat Verbeek just got re-signed, he's coming back. And there's a certain identity that Verbeek wants his teams to have. It's why he prefers guys like Cutter Gauthier over Trevor Zegras. It's why he has Gudish as the captain and other defensemen like Jacob Trouba, for example, also in the lineup. These are the kinds of guys that Pat Verbeek wants for his team. But the question is whether or not Radko Gudish, who is the current captain, sticks around on his next deal, if he's in the NHL at all. You see, I wanted to turn your attention to this article posted on sport.cz. This is a Czech sports website. Obviously, Radko Gudish is from Czechia, so that's where the relevancy comes in here. But this article is going to be linked in the description. It was posted by Jan Skvor earlier yesterday. Revenge for the elimination foul. Apparently, no one in the NHL will sign Radko Gudish again, as mentioned by former NHLer Jiri Tlusty. Will the sharp guard head to Sparta? Now, Sparta, we're not talking about King Leonidas and Gerard Butler over here. We're talking about HC Sparta Praha in the Czech Pro Men's League. Radko Gudish was playing in Kladno, and he did have some other time spent with different teams throughout the course of his Czech days, but it's just an idea tossed out here by Jan Skvor. Take a look at this. The career of hockey hardliner Radko Gudish is in danger, and it could end after the current season after 14 years. Former NHL forward Jiri Tlusty said this in his podcast. It is said to be a reaction to the indiscriminate tackle of the Czech defender on Auston Matthews, whose season ended with a serious knee injury. The 36-year-old's player contract in Anaheim expires after this season. Scrolling down here. Although the 2024 world champion regretted his move and later contacted the injured Toronto captain by phone and apologized, according to Jiri Tlusty, the GMs of the NHL have agreed to not sign this guy. Gudi's career in the NHL is over. The players and the agents spoke out against him, and I think the managers in the NHL agreed that no one would sign him. The move on Matthews was over the edge, and they want to eradicate this kind of move from the NHL. Moving back will be very difficult, said Tlusty. Gudish ended the American Olympic champion season with a knee-on-knee collision on March 12th. Matthews subsequently underwent surgery on his collateral ligament and faces about 12 weeks of recovery, ending his season. And for Gudish, a career in the NHL, which includes almost 900 regular season games over 14 years, is quite possible. I contacted Matthews, we talked. It was quite difficult to talk about it. I just wanted to make sure he knew that my intention was definitely not to hurt anyone. Cap. That's cap, bro. But moving on. If the NHL final really comes, according to information from the Sports CZ editorial team, Gudish's move to Sparta, which for his father played in the past and won 2 championship titles, is a real possibility. Kladno in the Czech League, where Gudish Jr. team was born and grew up playing hockey, is also not ruled out. The Knights have big ambitions after the new owner Thomas Dressel took over last year, and a participant of 2 Winter Olympics and 4 World Championships would be a huge boost for any extra-league team. However, Gudish is currently focused on finishing the season in Anaheim, which is close to advancing to the Stanley Cup Playoffs. So, there you go, a word around the grapevine from Czech sources. It's none other than former NHLer Jiri Tlusty, whom I'm sure most of y'all probably do remember this guy. Tlusty is 38 years old, which is kind of weird to think about, man. He's getting up there. But Tlusty also was a former Toronto Maple Leaf and a former Toronto Marley, so there's a pretty interesting connection there. He finished off his NHL days in 2016, playing for the New Jersey Devils. So Tlusty was around the league for a long time, and hearing that Radko Gudish could be on his way out of the National Hockey League because of this Matthews situation is so poetic in a way. Now, I'm not cheering for a guy to lose his job, nor am I cheering for Auston Matthews to have gotten hurt, but this seems to be one of the regular consequences that one may face if you take out one of the faces of the NHL, with a blatant knee-on-knee hit that, quite frankly, isn't needed in the game anymore. For what it's worth, there are some folks around the grapevine, around different parts of hockey media, that are responding to this Jiri Tlusty report on Radko Gudish. Top comment on the subreddit says, "I don't believe this for a second." Another reply says, "As much as I dislike Gudish, I don't have much faith in Tolusty's claim either. Gudish can be a dirty POS at times, but he is still a decent NHL defenseman. And despite the Matthews hit, I don't think 32 NHL GMs will pass the opportunity to sign him because of that." It's kind of funny because the way that the article is written, it makes it seem like, oh, all these GMs talked to each other and they unanimously agreed that they're not going to give this guy another NHL job. Like, the next reply says, "As Logan Mailloux and Mitch Miller proved, it only takes one GM no matter what everyone else thinks." Will you have 32 decision makers all coming to an agreement that Radko Gudish, who could be a free agent this upcoming offseason, is not going to get an NHL job? I don't know. We'll see. Boston, Vegas, Florida nodding their heads while emailing Gudish's agent. Don't forget Edmonton. Today I learned Jiri Tlusty has a podcast. I'm so sick of everyone having a podcast, and then when someone with no insider connections makes an offhand comment, it gets reported as truth. Well, I mean, Jiri Tlusty, NHL player, I think it's probably more reasonable to assume he has more connections than you or I. But with that said, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this Radko Gudish conversation? Yes, he ended the season of Auston Matthews, but did Auston Matthews and his presence end the NHL career of Radko Gudish? That's what's sort of being implied here by the Jiri Tlusty hit. I mean, I'm not saying that Auston Matthews decided something that led to the Gudish expulsion from the NHL, but in a way, it makes for a catchy title, doesn't it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Recherche Roll Sign, and bye.